Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Let me know. I'm just going to look. Now it's the people in the audience. I got to know if they can hear me. So, Salty, let me know if you can hear me. Sorry, guys. As I was saying, if you can hear me, I got AirPods for my birthday, but unfortunately, they're kind of screwing me up right now. So, let's make sure you guys, and I turned my phone off, so now I'm waiting on that. Yay, it's Wine Wednesday. Hey, Cheryl, can you say something real quick so I can make sure you're heard? And they won't be able to hear you. Hang on, let me try to fix that one. Okay. So, all right, let's see if this works. Sorry, guys. Again, Wine Wednesday. And I made the mistake of just trying to go live without testing out the AirPods. So, I'm going to pull me up here so we can make sure that everything's working before we start chatting. Really apologize, everybody. Oh, goodness gracious. I was telling them before we started that I actually have been playing with new software on my Mac. So hopefully we'll not have all these technical difficulties come next week and from now on. And my phone is like taking forever too. Jeez. Okay. Yeah, but I don't think they're going to hear you is the thing. Do you hear yourself? I got me to work. But I'm having trouble with getting you to work. Grr. Okay, let's try default again. AG audio. See, I just don't know which option it is, so I'm going through them. Hey, happy Wine Wednesday, everybody. Get your questions ready while we figure this out. Okay, Dan, try to say something again. Yeah, no, that's not working either. Let me just make sure here. You guys in the audience, let me know if you can hear him when he does speak, because I think we're having miscommunication there where I can't hear him. Okay, try one more time, Dan. Sorry. Okay, try one more time, Dan. Sorry. Nope, they can't hear you. Okay. I know. Trying. I'm about to go get the. I'm sincerely about to go get the janky headset just because I can't figure this out. All right, let's try one more. All right, try one more time, and then I'm going to get the headset.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
I think we have it. Let me make sure over here.
Yep, it's coming through.
Yay! Look at me, I'm such a genius. I'm so sorry, y'all. Okay, let me repeat my spiel really fast. I won't go into as many details. Happy Wine Wednesday. Hope your tank's fabulous. Your fish are amazing. Seahorses are great. And your reefs are beautiful. There we go. Cheers. Sipping on Chardonnay. And I explained to Ray. Ray asked right before we started whether or not this episode would be about sea dragons. I'm so sorry if the post confused anybody. Deborah lives in the UK, and she is an awesome hobbyist who set up a 4-room system to keep sea dragons in her home. And she wanted to come on Wine Wednesday and talk about it, but she lives in the UK, and it's just too hard with timing. So the post was a video. So unfortunately, we're not going to talk sea dragons tonight because I don't want to ruin the video. But check that video out. She's awesome, and it's a great video. And a shorter version for people who aren't interested in, as much in the seahorse part and really just want to focus on the sea dragons can be found on the Women in Reefing channel. It's actually a Women in Reefing video, but I made an extended version for my seahorse people because we wanted to learn more about her seahorses. Final thing for me, I'm wearing my very cool Seriously About Seahorse and Pipefish shirt from Macna's website, which I'll try to add when we're done. And final thing I wanted to tell you guys, everybody asks me all the time about where I get macros and gorgonians and stuff. And with this new tank build, I wanted to prettify it. So I always go to Gulf Coast Ecosystems. And the reason is you go to somewhere like eBay or some of these well, I won't even use names. Well, you go to some of these places and they're quality still, but you get a piece that's an inch big for like, $15 or something. These huge, I hope you can see them, huge, like this is codium filled to the brim in all this crazy looking airtight stuff. That's a huge Gorgonian. This is the size of my head, y'all. And then
So much light reflection on the bag.
Oh, sorry, I'm trying. And then look at these. that's Gorgonians, and you'll see them out of the bag. I just got home, so they're gonna be acclimated and quarantined, of course, and I'll show you guys that in a video. But I just wanted to show you because they always send such huge amounts for great prices. And Cheryl, have you ever used Gulf Coast?
I started buying from them when they were actually in Texas
Oh,
many years ago, and apparently they have since moved to Florida, and I still periodically buy stuff from them. Yes.
well, I don't even remember how I found them. I think because of their really cool guide online for caring for macros. But anyways, I like them. They, the products are coming from he's collecting them. So I personally quarantine them. I don't just throw them in the tank just to make sure there's no aptasia coming. And like I said, I'll show you guys later. But I just like bucket or tank or something, lighting, and I feed. And if there's aptasia, those little suckers will come out eventually. And I do that for a while before I, clear them for the tank. But just the quality and the size is just amazing to me. But anyways, okay,
Yeah.
now I've got all my rambling. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say when they first started, they were dealing primarily in selling macros.
Yep. They still do. They
Oh
have
yeah.
they have a few coral, like mainly soft coral. They have a great selection of gorgonians. I mean, I got four, and I mean, I'm not breaking the bank. And then they're kind of they don't have many macros available right now, but I believe that it's seasonal.
It's seasonal. Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, but you keep checking back on the website. It's not crazy. I mean, shipping for anything these days is, more than anybody wants to pay, but his pricing and his quality and his quantities are so good. And I actually know the guy that runs it. He's really a good guy. So yeah, just a big shout out for them because I'm very happy with my order. Everything's alive. I got some snails and stuff. So, hey, curious before we just chat about whatever, do you guys quarantine snails?
Do you what?
Quarantine. Yeah, that's the
Never
word.
kept any in a seahorse tank.
Yeah.
Really?
Never.
Anybody? Holly, do you?
They get a
No,
freshwater
I've
dip.
had the same snails forever. Honestly, when I set up my seahorse tank, it's like combination reef. I don't have corals and things, but I have live rock and cleanup crew. And when I set it up, I just set it up. I didn't quarantine anything, but I haven't added anything to it. So there's been no new snails. They're all the same old snails, a couple few years old.
Gotcha. And Cheryl, were you trying to say, do you quarantine snails or do you not keep them or what?
I typically freshwater dip them,
Oh,
coral
okay.
dip them, scrub them with a toothbrush, and then put them in quarantine and see what I missed.
Well,
It's not worth losing seahorses over.
no, you're right, and I'm getting ready to ask Dan a question. But Kevin, thanks for putting the link up. Dylan's Little Hobbies, definitely check out the video. It's really good. She's so cool. And hi Heather. Hey everybody. Okay, Dan. So I know you don't keep snails or didn't keep snails in your breeding tanks or whatnot. But would you advise people if they are going to put snails in their seahorse tanks to? What do you advise them to do?
Well, the proper thing would be to do it, but admittedly, I didn't on my display tank.
Gotcha. Well, I'll admit to you guys publicly, I scrubbed them, but they're already in the tank. They aren't getting the quarantine that the Gorgonians, because I just feel like, and I guess it is really dangerous because there are eggs, there are little things that can come in, but when you scrub the shell, I guess I'm pretty hopeful that there's not anything inside with the snail, right? Or could there be?
Yeah.
There
Who knows?
could be parasites inside an inner portion of the shell where you're not getting to for fear of damaging the foot on the snail.
Well, I'll let y'all know how it
Uh,
goes. How's that?
And I tend to be overly paranoid because if snails in one tank, it will never go in another tank.
Well, I definitely agree with
line.
that. Cross
I
contamination is
just
no
don't
no.
want to.
Yeah. Sorry, didn't mean to
Yeah.
cut you off. But yeah. So yeah, well, I'll let everybody know. But no, Cheryl's point's great. Like as far as tank to tank, no, they're not getting swapped or anything like that because that'd be major biosecurity. No, you're cross contaminating. I guess I just I don't know. I'll let you know how it goes. I just have never quarantined snails. I guess I have when I wanted to test whether or not they would eat particular macros, but other than that, hey Kevin, what's up?
You're muted.
Oh.
He knows.
Okay.
He just jumped in to show off his cool background. Well, and yeah, he did put up a link, guys. As I said, the shirt, there's plenty, and there's women in reefing gear also, stickers, everything. He put up the Aquarium Threads website. Definitely go check that out. And we're already in the planning stages for the upcoming MACNA events, so definitely stay tuned for that. But Sir Dan, you haven't been with us for a while. What's been going on with you? Or you just been busy?
Busy, and busy.
Gotcha. No joke. Well, yeah, we might have a surprise soon from Seahorse Source, but I won't give away the secrets yet. And Kevin's now showing us the cool background.
Wait a minute, back up. There's secrets for Seahorse Source?
No, not for Seahorse Source. I shouldn't have even said that. Dang it. No secret surprises.
This is sounding suspicious.
No, I shouldn't have even said anything. No, it's more about me.
You can't get that one past me.
Yeah, sorry. No Seahorse Store secrets, none whatsoever. I didn't mean it like that. Just should I go ahead and say it now, Dan, that I've ruined?
I don't care. She is coming down in December, supposedly to visit, but we'll see.
There you go.
I don't know if I can get moved in time or not.
So I might be able to make some really great videos for you guys when I go visit him. But if he's moved, I guess I'll be visiting an empty shed. Who knows? But
okay, so Dan, when can we start placing orders?
Yeah, I'm not breeding at the moment.
I know.
As much as I would like to, I just don't have the time. And it's. I mean, I'm out of the house typically first thing in the morning, and I'm not back to anywhere between 6:30 to 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah, and you can't raise fry when you're putting in that kind of a schedule.
Yeah, and I go, I have 1 week out of 3, which I go for a 7-day straight work week, and there's just no way for me to do it on my own.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I understand completely. I know that feeling.
He's making all that money. You can hire someone to do your seahorses.
Yeah, I wish it was all that money.
Yeah.
But there's several things that I want to ideas that I have in my head that I want to try that I would really like to do, but I just have to wait until things go into place to where I can do them.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, or when you hit the lottery and you set it all up to where someone else is doing all the work. I'm waiting for that too. Heather said in the comment section that she had an issue with snails bringing in parasites. Thanks, Heather. Now I'm going to be sweating it. You guys aren't wrong to say it was probably a mistake, but I did scrub them really good. I understand though about the parasites in the inside, and so definitely that should be the message, folks. Don't be silly like Kelly. Make sure that you quarantine the snails too. We've said that before. I just, took the risk. I guess we'll find out.
I personally never saw the reason for getting any.
The smartest thing you can do is quarantine anything you're planning on putting into a seahorse tank, because you never know what's on it. It's like even mixing seahorses from different sources. You never know what you're getting into, and it's best to spend your time to observe them.
Well, I think it's worth mentioning that regardless of the source of where you get your snails, most snails that you get are going to come from the wild.
They're wild caught.
And it's not conducive to a profit structure to try to breed snails at the current time. And it's too slow, it's too expensive, and too time consuming. So whether you order them from eBay or Alyssa or from me or from ORA or anyone, they're virtually going to be collected. The question is, where do they collect them?
Doesn't it matter
Some
too
places are cleaner than others.
Sorry, Dan. And hey,
Go ahead.
I just wanted to announce if you guys are hearing a little static from the Zoom guests, like I said, that'll be fixed next week too. It sounds staticky to me. I'm sure the brand new AirPods aren't staticking me, so if it's like that, apologies. Just let me know if it gets too bad. But Dan, doesn't it matter though, like what kind of tanks they're kept in? Like that's why I think.
Sure, I think all that matters. I'm just saying though that virtually all snails that you buy are going to be collected. They're not going to be captive bred.
Exactly.
Sure. And Kevin, if you are able to answer, if you're not, just give me a no. But if you're able to answer, I'm probably wrong, but I'm trying to remember, aren't things like snails less likely to become problematic aside from the shell because of their makeup? Like, that probably didn't even make sense. Like, because they don't have stuff. Okay, never mind. If anybody in the audience knows what I'm talking about, cheers. But I swear I read that somewhere, like that invertebrates and stuff like that are less likely to be, what they're saying is true, quarantine. But I'm just saying they're less likely, I think, because of they
You
don't have.
mean because they're not fish, they're
Yeah,
not carrying the same parasites, that
thank
sort
you.
of thing, right?
Kind of.
Or maybe the same bacteria, but that still doesn't mean that you can't bring something in.
Exactly.
Truth.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I just wondered because I just remembered it was all sciencey. So my question, of course, is they don't have the things, right? Sorry.
Well, think of it this way: if you can cross-contaminate a tank by putting your hand in one tank and not washing your hands, and then putting them in another tank, why can't you cross-contaminate or create a problem by dropping something in the tank that from
Right.
somewhere else?
True.
Well,
True.
it was somebody posted a picture of a snail that they had, and it was covered in aptasia.
Mhm.
Well, the aptasia most likely came in with the snail on the shell.
Well,
And
let's go ahead. Go ahead.
I do think that there's probably a more minimal chance of picking up something from snails than say from just bringing another fish in, but still, there's
Still,
always the potential.
no, absolutely. Hey, and what are you showing us, Kevin?
Oh, they are, if in the notes section, Kevin posted some stuff, and he said that they are intermediate hosts for many things. So their pathogens are not the problem; they're just hosts for other things.
Mm.
Lots of space in that shell for things to transfer between tanks.
Well, now you all made me feel really terrible. so let's everybody say a prayer for me. Take a sip for me. Cross fingers for me. There weren't that many, and yeah, we're just gonna hope for the best, I guess. But definitely listen to these wise folks, and don't do the same thing. Listen to these wise folks for sure. And I'm curious too. I want to hear about. I've got a couple questions for everybody here, but Ray, why didn't you ever find the need for snails? I know you have. I remember you talking quite a bit about the fact that they're not what you consider a good like cleanup crew as far as maintenance because even though they eat the gunk, they poop. So, but why is that? Why you don't like snails, or?
I just didn't see the need for them. Like people keep telling me that they're a good cleanup crew. Well, cleanup crew to me, I don't really have, basically because of that fact that they're not cleaning it up. They're just processing it further, and their waste is still sitting there in the tank. So I have to have some means of removing it, whether it's from the direct after the Seahorse, or whether it's after the cleanup crew, or whether it's after the micro life that's doing the further processing. I still have to remove it in some manner. So why
Are you
not just do it all that way?
are you doing bare bottom tanks or tanks
Yeah.
with sand?
Well, I have done sand, but I prefer bare bottom.
Right. If I have a tank that has sand in it, I'm gonna probably drop some snails in there. At least some Nasaria snails because they'll play cleanup with leftover mices that sometimes you don't see, especially if you have rock and macroalgae and stuff like that. And plus, they help turn the sand.
For me,
Sure.
when I had the sand, I used the gravel vac,
Mm.
and each time I do it, I do about a quarter of the sand bed. so I'm not disturbing the whole thing all at once.
We had a long discussion on the clubhouse about sand and why not to do the whole tank. Great point, Ray. And actually, my tank is currently bare bottom. I've kind of gone back and forth about whether that was a good decision, but it is. It does have rock though, and obviously it's going to have other live things. And so I don't have Nacerius because I think that would kind of be cruel. Don't they need the sand? I think they do. I mean, like that's their whole life.
They don't last as long in a tank, at least in my experience. I've tried it in some of the tanks without sand, and they didn't. You know, the population dwindled off. But you know, when it comes to a display tank, as a production tank, I want a bare bottom. But if I had just a single display tank, I would prefer sand and macroalgae in the tank.
Well, I'm still debating. I mean, I've got the sand. I could always add it. That would be a big pain, I know, but I don't know. I just like bare bottom. I don't know why. I just always have with seahorses. I don't know, but go ahead.
It's easier to see the mess, and it's a lot easier to clean a bare bottom tank.
Mhm.
I can go in and clean a tank every day or every other day, and it takes me a matter of just a few minutes. Versus if I've got sand in there, I've got a lot more work, quite frankly,
Sure.
to
Well,
maintain it.
interestingly enough, I kind of shared on a previous one Wednesday that when I first set up this tank, I was trying to I was second guessing myself. I had cycled the media. It was all pre-cycled. Everything was good. I checked with Dan on all this stuff. I knew I was good, but I just got nervous at the last minute because it's been so long since I set up a tank. All my tanks are old, you know. I don't do anything to them. So I dumped extra bacteria in, and it became a cloudy, god-awful mess. You couldn't see the back of the tank. Oh, it was terrible. And the bottom, the bare bottom, literally became like you could see as I began cleaning it up. I'm sorry, I'm jumping around, but Dan gave me some great tips. Like I stuck a canister on the side, you know, with a bunch of floss in it. I used peroxide, and then literally it was cleared up in like a day or two. But what was interesting to me is that you could see a film on the bottom of the tank. I mean, is that not crazy? I mean, I don't know. I just thought that was crazy that you could see it. I had to clean it up, like wipe it up, like the sides of the sides of the tank. I guess it's not so crazy because obviously all the sides of the tank get that way. But Holly, in your bare bottom tank, does it ever get dirty on the bottom where you have to wipe the bottom?
What I found, I keep my juvenile tank is bare bottom, and I have no cleanup crews at all, no snails, nothing in there, just the seahorses. And I found that if I run the light more,
Mm,
it'll grow algae.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then, though, when it does, it's easy to wipe off with a magic eraser. I go quick and easy to clean. But I didn't have reason to run the light last week. It's been sunny and nice now. It's in a nice open window room. As you can see, it's in this room with me. So it gets lots of daylight. They can see during the day. But I was using the light for feedings.
Mm,
I had one that I was feeding several times a day, so I was leaving the light on, and I got algae.
mhm.
Well, now I don't have that one anymore, so I'm leaving the light out. This week I had absolutely no algae to wipe off at all.
Nice. And you're
Yeah.
absolutely right that it's definitely the light. And that's like guys, like I said, it's been a long time since I set up a tank, so I feel like a newbie. Even though I know things, I keep second guessing myself, and I'm going to run into the same stuff Holly's talking about because I literally had a little clip-on light and that's all they needed. It is in front of a window, but I got window shading, you know, the shades that block the light, just because I have my 65 got covered in algae because it was in front of a window and I had a light on it. But now that I've gotten the Gorgonians and macros, I'm going to have add the light. So I'll let you know what I figure out with that one for sure. But, oh God, what I was going to say.
Kevin asked a question. Do
Go ahead.
seahorse keepers not like urchins for cleanup crew? They are aquaculture. There are aquaculture urchins.
You know what? I don't have a problem with urchins, but Dan, is there danger?
I don't know. I played around with some urchins once for a few months, and I didn't have any issues.
Because they're
Aren't they
spiky.
sharp, though? Can't they get stabbed on them?
I think it depends upon what type. The ones I had didn't have a lot of real long, very sharp things to them. I can tell you when I was out on a scalloper once, having to sort through the pile that we pulled up from the bottom, even with gloves on, my hands were a mess from the things going through the gloves.
So
So
it
matters.
depends on the type, sounds like then. There's a lot of different types.
Yeah. Yeah. And
He said short spine urchins, which
Okay.
I suspected he was meaning, and that was what I put in my tank. They were from the local waters that I collected them.
well, I would just say too that I would definitely, I'm interested in trying all sorts of new things with this tank because that's the whole point to it. So I wanted to try things and do different things. And even though I'm doing most of the same things, we're going to get to some cool things. But honestly, I don't know much about urchins, so I wouldn't know their care. Like, do they have any particular needs? Like, would they hate a bare bottom tank? Do they not care?
I don't know. The ones that I had were primarily algae eaters, and they did a good job of mowing everything down.
Nice. Well, and that's what I was going to say too. Is guys, the real reason I got these snails was not for the new tank. The new tank doesn't need them. It's completely clean. We're cleaning up the old tank because we're going to do some things with that tank too. So although there's seahorses in it, it looks like a swamp, and they're happy as little happy things. I can't think of a good word, but they're very happy in there. But it looks atrocious. That's why you guys never see it. So we're cleaning it up, and I got the snails to hopefully mow some stuff down. Maybe I should try an urchin. Maybe I should. What do you
So
guys think?
isn't it Heather that has the urchins that she bought all the hats for?
Yeah, that wears the hats. Yeah, they're so
That's just
cute.
hysterical.
Is
I
Miss
wonder
Heather still with us?
if they'll do that. Do all the urchins do that? Is Heather here?
She
Yeah, she's
is.
over on Facebook, and
And
she said urchins like to wear accessories more than eat algae.
but it's interesting.
Did you
So
see the
Heather,
one that she had all her the empty shells was literally covered in shells?
Yeah.
Or they'll wear a couple different hats at the same time and then they'll fight over them. I mean,
Yeah.
it's making me laugh every time I see her urchin stuff.
now that you said that, I remember Heather. We love your posts. They're awesome. Everybody,
Yeah.
check out Heather's posts. But Heather, if you're able to answer, I'm curious. How long have you kept the urchins? And are you keeping? And obviously, are you keeping them with seahorses? And have you had any troubles? That'd be my um, questions for you. But oh, hey guys, I completely forgot to mention too that last week we did the Siren Song Seahorse kind of promo, and we did raffle off the 3 fragrances. Holly, I'm sorry I forgot to mention that at the beginning, but definitely there's a video actually on the channel showing we went live and did the raffle. And Holly, were you able to reach all 3 of the winners?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
good,
Yeah.
good.
So they're all on their way, or actually, probably they're arriving today, or did arrive. So
Nice. I think
yeah,
I
I
see.
got the prizes out right away.
Oh, look, there's one of mine. It's a little. It's from being in my pocket. It's a little not as pretty on the thing, but these things are really great, guys. They smell amazing. Oh, just great. I'm telling you. But, anyways, okay. So sorry I didn't do that at the beginning, but definitely, guys, check out her site for sure. Cool essential oils. She's coming up with new ones soon.
Yeah.
And while we wait, okay, wait. Heather said no urchins with the ponies. They're in the Fowler. They are babies. I've had them about a month. The pencil urchin would probably be okay. So rounded, soft spines, but you don't chance it. I'm gonna have to think on that one whether I would chance it. Cause and Kevin left. I was just gonna ask him if he knew someone who'd kept them with seahorses. Cause now I'm
You
kind of
just need a
curious.
bunch of hats for them and you're fine. No,
There
I'm
you go.
kidding.
Yeah, cover those signs.
Hey Cheryl, how are the Ocean Rider seahorses?
Well, I got 2 more that came in today.
Mm.
They changed it, shipped them by UPS. So they did the 2-day overnight out of Hawaii. I got one picture I took earlier without any light on, and the male is definitely orange. I mean, orange.
Hmm.
So is the female. The ones that I got that spent 7 days in the box are growing like little weeds. And I posted before we started there's the younger ones, the yellow ones, they're starting to pair up and they started swimming together as pairs. Well, now we're getting to the point I can't take my tail off of you. It's just too good to be true. Can't take my tail off of you.
Love it. Love it.
So they're
Yep.
doing fine. They're really really grown. I would say the males at this point have probably put on at least 3/4 of an inch in length now.
Mm.
The females, of course, are staying smaller, which is typical, but they're also turning bright orange.
Wow, that's awesome. And so, do they still have rules? Like, did you have to agree not to breed them, or have they let go of that?
I'm sorry, repeat it.
I remember when I first started with seahorses, so this is many years ago. But when I didn't know any of you guys yet, and I was looking for where to buy seahorses, I went to Ocean Rider, and they had a rule that you had to promise not to breed the seahorses. Is that still the case, or do they?
It's still in their parameters, but how do you determine? I mean, Joe down the street could go buy a pair and they could make fry. How are
Right.
you going to determine where they?
They
I
were
think that
checking
the key is
DNA or something like that, so that if you were selling seahorses and they could trace it back to their parentage, then they could go after you.
Are you serious?
yeah,
Yeah, that was a long time ago, but that's what they were doing.
yeah. It's not on their website like that anymore.
Yeah, I haven't seen
Basically,
it
what
recently.
they're doing is the thing is the sunbursts, the red flames, and so on are proprietary, and so it clearly states you cannot use these names to sell these seahorses.
So it's more about
But
business
it's one
and
of those
them.
things where,
Sorry. So it's more about business and them not
well, the
wanting
thing is
somebody,
too,
or wait. Is it more about business and about them not wanting someone else to breed the same seahorses and take away from their business, or which I'm not saying is wrong, or is it about like F1, F2 kind of things where they don't want like too much breeding down the line to go on, or what is
I
it?
think they could run into
Well,
problems anyway because while you couldn't um, raise the fry and say, well, these are sunburst ones.
right?
There was nothing
Yeah,
they could do about you saying that these ones are the fry from sunbursts,
yeah.
Oh,
but
I
not
think
calling them
it's a trade
sunbursts.
name thing. Yeah, they're trying to use it as a trade name, the color.
exactly. It's
So
like the
like
siren
say
song.
orange seahorses, it's okay, but don't call them sunburst or
Exactly.
whatever they're
It'd
saying.
be like if I got a bottle of your siren song fragrance and then turned
Mhm,
around and said, "Oh, I have making siren song."
mhm,
That part of it is proprietary because it is a business name.
mhm.
right, but that gets really really iffy because of the fact
Yeah,
that I remember no, I won't mention names. I remember a large copepod cultivator getting pretty upset because someone was doing the exact same thing, buying, and I mean, the company promotes cultivating your own and teaches you how and sells the products to do it, but then they, weren't real happy when people were turning around and selling them because then that takes away from the business. I get it, but I don't think there's much they can do. I don't think that's, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Is there legal
well,
ways that they can stop
it's
you from
like
doing that?
yeah, it's like Epicyclops panamensis copepods. We all know
Right.
them. I've raised them. I'll openly admit it. And Reed Mariculture calls them their apex pods. Well, apex pods, the apex name would be proprietary, but propagating the copepods would not be
So if
because you
someone
can.
sold their pods, if someone propagated and was very successful and sold the pods as Apex pods, that's illegal. But if they sold them as Apexy pods, it's cool.
Yeah,
That's twisted. That's kind
yeah.
of twisted.
That's why I
I
always
think
tell
Ocean
people that.
Rider would run into the same problem with the Pinto name versus a Sunburst. I mean,
Mm,
Sunburst is clearly, proprietary, but Pinto is a description of a horse. So
Yeah.
right?
I don't know how they could, I think they'd run issues there. I also think they'd run into issues if they still tried to do the DNA and enforce that stuff because who's to say that I don't take a seahorse from somebody else and not know where the hell they're from? I
Right.
didn't sign the agreement.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's a very difficult thing to enforce in that. The name part, I think that there's, well, you might beat them in court. Who wants to go through the legal fees of fighting on them in court?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and there's an ethical kind of thing to go along with this too. Like I personally wouldn't do that. But then I say I wouldn't do that, but then I bought seahorses and then bred them. So and I didn't, you know.
It would be like Dan with his minis. Uh, if I turned around and got some, and they said, and I had minis too. Well, who's to say that who I got them from, and who's to say what what other seahorses are they related to, since they came from normal seahorses?
Mhm.
And when you start playing DNA games and trying to do that, it can get really dicey.
Well, what was really interesting when I was hoping, we have discussed it, but just the weight of, is it wrong to do that to a company, or is it every man for themselves? I don't know the answer.
I
Um,
used to promote people to breed the seahorses that I shipped them.
I know you did, and I always thought you were crazy, but I mean, it worked for you. So, I mean, you had good, and I do wonder too. Oh, I see the question, Dylan. I'll get to it, I promise. And Ray's answering you anyways. But Cheryl, how have the red shrimp come into play? And all I mean by that is, I know they ship them, for you with the seahorses originally. But do you have, like you said, that these seahorses are coloring up really well? Have you continued to feed the red shrimp and continued to buy them, or how? What do
Well,
you think the coloring is about?
one of the things that Ocean Rider is saying is because of their vibrance categories. They have
Mm,
vibrance and vibrance two. That is one of the components that they use to enhance color. And again, I'm not sure it's true. I don't know enough about it at this point to be able to make a judgment call. But when you're dealing with color, it's like how many, I know a number of people that have gotten sunbursts or the orange ones or whatever. They put them in their tank, and the next thing they know, they're brown. And they
right.
talk about, they even put it on their website, keep them in low, yeah, keep them in low lighting, uh, kind of stuff.
I am
And they
listening.
have
We're showing off my bird.
they have a lot of parameters to help them maintain color. So if they're that concerned, why are they telling people how to maintain that kind of color?
Well, and I just want to make clear, very clear, really quickly. We're just having a discussion here. We're not promoting
Yeah,
or saying anything bad about any companies at all.
no,
Just about the feeds and stuff in general. And I just wondered because I could totally see the red shrimp being a part of the diet, making color um, more probable. Dan, what are your thoughts on that?
yeah. But
Um,
the thing is, there's probably other types of shrimp and invertebrates that you can use to increase their lipid content,
Hmm.
which improves their health, which would also have a tendency to improve or possibly make their colors more vibrant. So
Sure.
is it really the red shrimp, or is it just the fact that they're using a saltwater species to augment
Mm.
their brood stock?
Yes, and Dan has, and we have talked numerous times about how to color up seahorses that has nothing to do with feeds. I just
Yeah.
personally wondered Dan's opinion about if he's willing to share it about whether because they're literally sending red shrimp with the seahorses, and then like if it was me,
I think my personal take is that it may make a difference if you feed them a diet high in nature rose and have an unlimited supply of the red shrimp to feed them. Um, the question is, what happens a few months from now when that wears down, within the body of the animal if you don't continue to do the same thing they're doing? And history tells us that in some cases the horses will maintain some color, but there's many people that find, and I've had many customers that used to spend the $900 it was for the red seahorses that have called me up 3, 4 months later and said, yeah, they went to a normal coloration for a seahorse.
Mhm.
So I don't know. And I don't believe that you can breed color into a seahorse. I do think that you can affect the color with diet and conditions.
See, now
And
we need Chris we need Chris to get in here because he's trying to breed color into seahorses. But
right, well, I've
you're
seen
saying
many
it's
people
multiple.
try.
Hmm.
Well, I've tried. Tammy Weiss tried to do the ghost seahorses with the white ones, or whatever
Right.
she called them, the Snow Whites or
Snow
whatever
Whites,
it
yeah.
was.
And
And
she came up with some pretty amazing color patterns with that when Tammy was doing that.
she did, but she still didn't achieve what she was trying to achieve. And I'm not going to say the Ocean Rider hasn't done it because I don't know,
Hmm.
but I just find I haven't seen anybody else succeed in doing it. And, based on the history of how many people have had their seahorses that were, super bright colored or whatever, came in was supposed to be a certain color, changed to a normal coloration. I just don't believe it's in the breeding. I think it's in the technique of rearing and feeding.
Well, we've always said don't
Well,
buy for color, and even if someone succeeded, what you're saying makes sense, Dan, because even if they are breeding it into them, and not just breeding it into them or whatever, but also the feed that they're using, the nutrients they're using, the water they're using, the tank that they're using, the things in the tank, everything that seahorses camouflage to, or however you say it. That seahorse gets shipped to someone else who doesn't really know how to color a seahorse up, and it's gonna go away. Like Cheryl, you know how to color a seahorse up, so you're
well,
Anyways, go ahead.
yeah. I'll give you an example. In back, I want to say it was 2006 or 2007. I ordered an extra large male from Draco Marine,
Hmm.
and they asked me if I wanted one that was silver. Well, they sent me this. He was silver. I mean, and that seahorse never changed color. And it didn't matter what I did with the lights, what I was feeding him. I was probably doing everything wrong back then because I didn't know as much as I do now. But he never changed color. And at the same time, I had a bright ruby red female with silver saddle markings. She never changed color. But the mate to the female that ultimately paired up with the silver male, she would turn silver when they danced together, but
You
she
know
was
that
brown the rest of the time.
That's so funny you said that because my first original seahorse, that everybody would message me and be like, "Where in the heck did you get a purple seahorse?" Because this seahorse, it was a darker, blacker kind of color, which you would think would be, not what you want, but it looked purple and it wasn't lighting. It didn't matter. It was a dang purple seahorse, and he never changed except when he was courting too. But I
Mm-hmm.
don't, I, you know,
I have right now. I have what is basically a yellow female,
yeah,
and when she hitches, well, she's turning more orange, but when she hitches to the green octopus coral I've got in there, she turns this really kind of pale lime green shade.
right.
Now, I've never seen a lime green seahorse before, but she can pull it off.
Well, no,
And
and
I sit there and stare at her.
I would
Dylan,
be interested to see if I took my juveniles, and fed them the red shrimp, how it would affect their color.
if you're gonna test
But
that,
but,
Holly,
but
if
I
you're
have
Actually, Holly, I really wanted to do an experiment. I wanted to see if I could buy some of the red shrimp from
uh,
Ocean Rider
yeah.
because, well, they didn't have enough to sell right now.
okay,
Mm-hmm.
hang on, guys, hang on, because I want to say what we're talking about right here. If anybody new is watching this, I do not agree with what they're saying. Okay, because I do not think that if you want to keep seahorses, becoming invested in having to have a specialized food that you have to ship in, um, man, that just would be a lot. I mean, it's worth the experiment. I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm just saying anybody new watching, maybe
Yeah,
it's not that big a deal. And
I totally agree.
yeah, I would not
Totally
go
agree.
to that. And I was
I
gonna say, wait, Holly, wait. I was gonna say too, if you do this experiment, I would love to follow and figure it out. But also, you should try the things that Dan suggested before too, putting a blue coating or
well, I
blue.
have that. That's what I was about to say. Is what I
Oh,
have
sorry.
noticed is that by having brighter things in their tank, with the blue background. Um, they do get brighter colors, and
Yeah.
also controlling the algae is a big part of it too, because
Well,
they'll get, like, when the algae grows, they want to match the algae.
if
Right.
they look
So,
at
Hey,
the tank
wait.
frame,
I want to respond to her real quick. Holly, I just wanted to let you know that your beautiful seahorse is still beautiful. The seahorses are still gorgeous, but your female is literally now the color of the rocks. But it's a pretty color
yeah,
because I
yes,
use
they
really
do.
white rocks. So,
Yeah,
but
I have one. All right, now they're kind of in bed right now, but earlier I noticed I have one coral that's super white, and yeah, I had a white seahorse on it, totally white,
well, and then
beautiful. At dinner time when I met him, he came to dinner all white, and then he
awesome.
went to a different thing that's gray and changed to that color.
Well, hey, and I have a real quick
yeah,
before we get into
well,
conversating. Wait. I want to ask Dan a quick question because I'm just curious about his opinion about where this conversation has gone back and forth. Because Dylan in the comments said that his horse is purple thanks to I gotta read it. Thanks to a rock that's purple. But my purple seahorse literally stayed purple its whole life. It didn't matter what it hitched on; it was purple, and it only changed when courting. So is that an abnormal thing? Dan?
No, not necessarily, but take a look at the picture that I have up for my background.
Yep.
Those seahorses are H. reedi. They were black 2 weeks before the picture was taken. I received them from a wholesaler who asked me to turn them yellow so they could sell them as yellow. So my
Wow.
job was to take the seahorses and
yeah.
turn them yellow. So they were all black, put them in that tank that they're in, and in 2 weeks they turned yellow, as you see.
Mm. So, I mean, really, the answer is we don't know. Nobody knows. It could be feeds.
Well,
It could be. But one more question for Dan before we go back to chatting. Because we've talked on this channel, Dan and Ray actually, because we've talked on this channel a lot about don't buy into the I can't think of the word now. The Vitachem and all the stuff that you literally soak the food in because it comes off in the water right away. But I believe Cheryl's been having luck with it now. So I'm curious, have we learned something new, or would you say it's a good idea to soak foods in vitamins?
I'm not a fan of it.
Okay. But
I think
Cheryl, go
it's
ahead.
better off if you're going if you want to do some play around with that kind of stuff. Get live food and feed, whether it be shrimp, amphipods, whatever, and feed them an enhancement rather
Mm,
than dumping it in the water.
right.
Probably the closest thing you could come to success would be to soak freeze-dried shrimp in whatever you're doing, and you might get a little bit more taken in that way. But if frozen's already got too much moisture in it to really take anything in.
Hmm.
Hey, Chimp.
Yeah,
Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Cheryl.
yeah. I mean, you can manipulate a tank to get them to change colors. Um, I adopted two different broods of fry a few years back that I raised out, and in both instances, the parents, the adults, were the typical dark brown ractus. Well, darned if all those seahorses didn't turn yellow.
Mm,
All the fry, as they grew up, the whole darn lot of them turned yellow. But they had a dark background. They had the colored hitches that it was conducive for a color change. So the environment can play a big role in terms of the colors that you get with seahorses. Bottom line, and we see it all the time. I know people that have gotten seahorses from Ocean Rider that started out as sunbursts, and literally within a couple of days, they were brown.
great. I would really love to take a trip and go visit the facility just to see how they keep them. And I'd love to talk with Chris. Chris, if you watch this later, we need to get you back in here to chat because there are no wrong answers. And like to see what your progress is going. Like, oh, they're doing a whole new exhibit too. So we got to get him back in here to chat about everything that's going on over there with him in Australia. Yeah, I'd love to see how these special color seahorses are being kept because I mean the bottom line is if they keep them and raise them in a simulated not simulated in a specific environment on specific feeds, you should be able to mimic that at home, right?
I have seen, Kelly, they have videos, some
Yeah, I
pretty
know.
good ones I've seen on YouTube. So I have seen, and they're years old, so I don't know if it's still the same, but they had them in huge blue tubs,
Yep.
like the color of Dan's background right now. And that's what I saw in their videos as far as they were raising them in there.
Hey Dan, when you would move the seahorses before shipping to glass tanks, or for whatever reason to glass tanks, would that change anything? Or
I found that they colored up better in a glass tank than they did the tubs.
no
That's what I was
kidding?
saying too.
Wow.
Yes. Now, I think a lot of it has to do with lighting
Ah,
and the tubs. You know, I didn't have a light specifically over the tub. I had overhead lights, and on the glass tanks, they were brighter inside the tank than they were in the tubs.
actually, that reminds me. There's a video out there, a very old one, of a seahorse that I was raising that was so jet black as a babe, as a fry, and then I put it in a different tank with macros and with a freshwater plant light, and all of a sudden it was bright yellow, and it turned into a girl. But hey, whatever.
Well, that's one thing is too that others have said. Reduce your light, give them, a blue or a dark background, and they will turn more yellow. And which is basically what I ended up doing with the ones that I adopted.
Mhm. So I'm curious, Dan, last question for you. Um, if someone's wanting to color up a seahorse, and we're talking just specifically about lighting, not all your other tips, is blues better? Is full spectrum better? Do you have any idea?
I found that daylight white light was the best.
So like the 5000K kind of lighting, daylight
Yep,
white.
5 to 7,000 K.
Got it. That's what my freshwater plant light was mainly. It had others, but yeah. Anyway, anybody else have any thoughts on that? Okay, well, listen, I'm trying to shorten these Wine Wednesdays. We've been going an hour and
One
50
more
minutes.
thing that's helpful with this, though, and that
Please.
is natural sunlight will help more with coloration than anything else you can do.
No kidding. So open my blinds. But then you
Don't
got to
let
deal with the algae.
Yeah, keep cleaning that algae, but leave the blinds open. No,
Everything
you know
turns
what?
yellow
On
in my
my tank,
house.
they lightened up when I stopped using the light, but I'm using mostly natural sunlight, like Dan's saying now.
Yeah.
So I'm growing less algae, but they're getting enough light just from the daylight.
Well, you
Yep.
know, it was interesting that, this goes back about almost 15 years now, but we had a 10 tank system that was the one tank was by the window and the rest were cascading away from the window. And we put a batch of fry in those tanks. They were all 30-gallon tanks. The tank closest to the window, the seahorses grew the fastest and were the brightest. The next tank, and it was like a stair step down. The further we got away from the natural sunlight, the slower they grew and the less colorful they were.
Well,
Wow.
it's like with my tanks, I use predominantly ambient light. The only time they actually have lights on is when I go to feed them. The rest of the time they're in ambient lighting because I have one whole wall that faces north that's actually kind of sheltered by a lot of trees, but all they're getting is natural sunlight.
Yeah, but once you start keeping Gorgonians and macros and things like that, that changes things, right? Or do you guys think that lighting from a window would be enough?
I don't keep those other things, so I can't tell you.
No, I know.
that.
Cheryl does. I was kind of hoping she'd give a response.
I don't have any corals in any of my tanks. It's
But
all
you have
I
clear.
use
macros, don't you?
lighting, I use 5000K lighting when I have the corals and macros. But
Have
other
you,
than that, just ambient lighting.
Ray, have you ever tried keeping coral or macros in a tank with just, not ambient, but like by a window?
No, I've
Okay.
never I've never had a tank by a window.
Which,
Well,
You know,
I don't have any windows that I could set up something like that.
and
I
honestly,
had
folks,
a
go Dan.
I'll tell you though.
Wait. Hang on, let Dan talk. Go ahead. We're all
I,
talking.
I was giving a talk to a reef club across the state one weekend, and one of the guys in the club had a huge 200 some odd gallon reef tank, and he had a construction crew put a sunlight above the tank in the roof
Mm.
to come over the tank. And he said that reef tank exploded in terms of the coral, how fast they were growing, how colorful they
Yeah.
looked, how healthy it was. And I do think natural sunlight, as much as we try to replicate it with lighting, we still can't quite get the exact same thing.
Of course, the UVs and stuff. And if you see
Yeah.
online, I've seen reef tanks and seahorse tanks and all sorts of tanks in places where they're actually living, and people doing outside tanks, which I can't imagine caring for. But man, those are the most amazing tanks you'll ever see. And I totally agree with what Dan said. And maybe this is something I'll test with this tank. Because I would know if the Gorgonians or macros were failing. So maybe we'll see. We'll try it out. Go ahead, Cheryl.
Well, what I was going to say is, based on what Dan just said, years ago, a friend of mine basically put a big skylight in his house and had a 500-gallon tank.
Mm.
And I mean, it wasn't just the corals; it was the fish also. I mean, he had stuff in that tank that were almost a foot long. You know,
Wow.
trigger. He had a Hawaiian tang that's the biggest I've ever seen,
Jeez.
and it was amazing.
Hey, Chimp the Reefer, thank you. I appreciate you too. And I'm curious though with the lighting conversation. Ray, I know you probably got to go in a sec, but I got one more thing to tell you. But with the lighting situation, does the window affect things? Because I darn well know that the big tank that's in front of a window sure as heck covered in algae. It didn't matter about the window. But does it like affect anything? Take away some of the good juicy sunlight?
Well, I can't even answer any question about it because I've never
Right.
had any spot to put a tank near a window.
Yeah.
So all my tanks have been in the basement or this one behind me on the wall here, one in the kitchen. Uh,
But
but
you've never done the expensive crazy reef lights, right? You just do what do you do?
no, I had reef tanks, but when I started into reefing, excuse me, the big thing then was people were lighting them with metal halides.
Yep.
Well, I didn't like the hydro bill, even at the cheap cost it was back then, and so I just built hoods that I put wall-to-wall fluorescent tubes in.
Hmm.
And at the time, you couldn't get fluorescent tubes in a store that were in the high Kelvin range. And at the time, I bought a box of 30 from a wholesaler at 6,000K, and they were GE bulbs.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
How funny.
and eventually, and like over my 90-gallon tanks, I'd have 8 of these sitting across the top. Um, eventually, GE sent me a letter about them, and I don't even remember now what it was all about, other than they were asking me the application and so on. And apparently they'd just seen something from one of the forums that it was on at the time. And there wasn't
Oh
too many
wow.
back then. Next thing I know, they're selling them as GE Daylight Ultras.
Oh my gosh.
They're selling them in our Canadian Tire store here in London. Um, well, I guess it wasn't just in London. They were selling them all over at that point.
You heard it here first. Ray is the one who started the daylight
But the
bulbs.
thing is, it didn't take long before fluorescent tubes got wiped out with the what do they call them? The
5,000?
P5.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But hey, and anybody who has a comment, feel free. I do want to read Dylan's comments too. But Ray, what I did want to tell you, because I'm jumping back. I'm sorry, but I wanted to tell you. I know that it's a long video, but you should sincerely watch the Deborah Sea Dragon video because she agrees with you 100%. She tried a few times to keep snails, but the bottom line is they couldn't live at that cooler temperature that you need to keep sea dragons. And so she describes in detail that, she is the cleanup crew. She keeps her nitrates at 2. She has all this equipment and maintenance and equipment she set up to make sure she never needed snails. You know what I mean? So what you were saying earlier makes sense. I just thought you'd enjoy that a person keeping sea dragons agrees. So anyways.
I just wish I was young enough to start into it.
Right. I know.
Well, one of the things too that I'm finding is years ago I used to use the what were they, the 9mm or whatever, the big fluorescent tubes with the metal reflectors.
Mm-hmm.
Seahorses hated them. They would all go hide.
Yep.
And the only thing that could grow was a pally in there that nailed me one day, and also Recordia. Everything else hated the lights. And since that time, I've picked up some reef breeder photons, and some what would be considered, decent reefer lights. But I keep them on the lowest setting when I do turn them on, and they're only on during feeding time.
Yep.
And it definitely has made a difference in the activity level and the colors that I see in my seahorses. The rest of the time, they have one wall of light that faces north, and that's the only light they get going in that room the rest of the time. So they're basically in low light.
Sure. Well, I'm thinking I'm going to test out the window theory a little bit, and if I see the macros or Gorgonians not doing well, then probably 2 of our last 3 or 4 guests have recommended AI primes. So I think that's the route I'm going to go if I do put a light on this tank, because you can adjust the settings so well and really focus in on
I
what
can
you
run
want.
it with strictly just blues. I can run it with a basic full range color, but on the lowest settings, and it's very, very minimal light. The seahorses love it. That's what they eat by. And they know when those lights come on that food's coming in. But they don't hide, they don't turn brown or anything else in the tanks.
Sure.
I need to try that. I think in my display tank it's too bright because I have one of those orbit marine lights that's programmable, and I have it on the normal cycle that comes with pre-cycled. And I've never tried like programming it myself because it has custom programming, but I haven't taken the time to figure it out. And I think it's the lighting that's on it is probably, well, I know it's encouraging algae growth, but I'm sure it's supposed to encourage coral growth and things like that.
Well,
but I don't.
Yeah,
I was going to say the freshwater plant tank 24/7. It was a Fluval 24/7 freshwater plant light that I put over my seahorses and the macros in the tank that everybody thinks is so amazing that I no longer have. But anyways, I can tell you this, it was programmable like that, and it had all the stupid, they're just stupid, like, oh, it's a lightning storm. Seahorses don't want a lightning storm. That's stupid.
I never use that.
and I did have to make some adjustments because while I was trying to grow macro, the seahorses were the priority, and everything we've said tonight is true. They are fine in ambient light. They don't need any crazy lighting. In fact, it can upset them. I've told the story many times where my male, the first time he was getting ready to, or the first time he was pregnant, he aborted his babies because I changed the lighting and it was too strong. It's, but anybody in the audience, I'm curious what kind of lighting you have and what you use. And before anybody else speaks, I want to say cheers to Dylan. Dylan's
I
little,
looked at some pricing on lighting years ago, and it was just scary. I'm a tightwad, and there's no way you're going to get me to pay that kind of money for lights for my reef tanks. Well, and seahorses don't need them, but you know, for the reef tanks, there's no way. Um,
Yeah.
what I did do um, for the barbs tank, where I had the mackerel and the corals in it, I took a corncob bulb.
mm-hmm.
You know what that is?
No.
Oh, well, they're basically cylinders with strips of LEDs all around the bulb. They use them in factories and barns, things like that. And um, I took the corncob bulbs apart and I put them in a strip form, lined them up. I had to solder in wires so I could put them all in a row. And so it went the length of the tank, and I made a little box frame for it,
Hmm.
and that was it. So for under $100, I had 5,000 K lighting, and
It worked.
it was high lumen output. I think that for that particular one, I think it's 5,000 lumens. But I've got 10,000 lumen bulbs I took apart to make fixtures for starting my tomato plants and pepper plants and that kind of thing. But
Well, Ray, here's the difference between you and I. I am lazy. I admit it. I don't do DIY very good. Like, I can't wait to show you guys my K1. I did finally get the K1 2 liter or 1 liter, excuse me, media reactor done, and I'll be darned if I didn't put it in and figure out that it won't work in the back of the all-in-one tank because it's too tall. It works in the tank, but not in the back. So now I have to, I don't like DIY. I am the type of person, excuse me
Well,
if I'm
mine-
talking too loud. Hang on, because I want to say this to Dylan. But I am the type of person that totally, I'm like, okay, I'll just spend the money because I don't want to have to do it. But before anybody else talks, wait. Guys. We get so excited we always talk, but I want to do a really quick cheers to Dylan's little hobbies for coming every week and commenting and sharing and asking questions. Thank you. That's why we do this channel. I know a lot of Heather, I love when you guys come and share with us. We have fun just sitting up here talking, but we care about listening to you too. So thank you, all of you. Okay, go ahead. Anybody.
Well,
Just,
just
my
real
display
Not all of you, one of you.
My
Hi,
display
Holly.
tank was inherited. I didn't pay for it at all, so that's why it's fancy. Someone passed away and left it to me. So my blowout tank is thrown together like Ray would do. I use a shop light overhead, so I hear ya.
Hey, my 58 gallon that I built turned into, I took out I completely reworked the tank. Anyway, that's a tank that I started as a grow out tank, and it's currently the tank that I cleaned up and I'm currently housing the sunny seahorses in. And it's got a 12-inch Marineland submersible LED. It's got one row of whites and one row of blues. That only lights up half the tank. And they're still bright yellow.
Well, I do have to give a quick shout out. I do, on my reef tank, I use an SB Reefs light. It's worked amazingly. On my big 65 gallon Seahorse tank, I used a freshwater SB Reef light because I've just found that freshwater bulbs grow macros better. Unfortunately, with the window, I don't blame the light. I blame the window. But and myself for not keeping better maintenance. And I see Chris Curie is with us now. Hey, Chris, we were talking about you earlier. We want to know what's going on with your latest construction, whether the new exhibit is finished or close. We want to hear some updates, so we need you to jump in here one week when you can. And we were talking about breeding color into seahorses. So I'm definitely curious where that's gone with you. But hi, all right. Anybody else? Go ahead. I said we were going to shorten
Where's
these
the corn
things.
cob, Paul?
Oh, Ray's, hang on. Let me make you big, Ray.
Light.
Ray's showing us. Hang on. Here we go. It takes me a
Is that the
second.
corn cob light?
Wait a
That's
minute.
the
Wait a
corn
minute.
cob, right?
Ah. I've
All
never
right.
seen one.
Me either.
This particular one is 5,000 Kelvin, and it's 10,000 lumens.
Wow.
And how did
I've
you?
never.
You said you built a box around it?
No, well,
Smart.
it's got little screws in the bottom there and so on, and you take screws out and you take the whole thing apart and you take all the strips and you cut into the wires that go to each strip, and then you put in the appropriate lengths of wires so you can put these things in any configuration that you want. Like having them go around in a bulb like this isn't much good for an aquarium, because even if you screw it into a fixture and it's sitting like that, then you're wasting it unless you've got a pretty high-tech reflector. And I found that with the light meter that even the best reflector that I could provide for it, I was still losing too much on it. So it made more sense to take it apart and make it so all the bars are pointing downwards.
You're
Kelly,
brilliant.
don't
You
try
know,
this
wait.
again.
I'm not going to, Cheryl, no worries. I was going to say, Ray, you're brilliant. I love your DIY stuff. I think you're amazing. I mean, my gosh, you guys need to go back and watch the episode where he shows us his, how he conditions cold water abdominalis tanks. It's insane. I mean, he's so good at these things, and you should definitely check out his site and listen to him, because he's got great advice and he really knows how to do these things. But I'm also going to say they now sell strip lights. You don't have to take anything apart. They sell strip lights.
The money that they charge for them
Right.
Yeah.
in Canada here, this stuff's way more expensive than in the States. This thing's $80 when it's not on sale. And the best sale price that I buy them at is closer to around 60. But for $60 and then a little bit of wood, then I've got a 10,000 lumen output light.
You're not wrong. I'm just trying to say that if anybody in the audience is like me, and the one time you tried to plumb a tank, it leaked, you know, it's just
I'm with you, Kelly.
right.
But the thing is, if
I'm
you
gonna
keep
pay.
doing things, you learn,
Right.
and so that the next time you do it, you're not going to leak.
You're not wrong. And Dan, you do everything DIY too, don't you?
Not everything, but if you're going to survive on a commercial level, you got to keep your expenses low. So,
Right.
you know, as much as I could, you know, I did do a lot of uh, do it yourself. My reactors, and I mean, me making reactors, you know, was very cheap compared to $300-400 to buy each one for each system.
Right.
So there's a lot of stuff that we did that was on the cheap that we did ourselves, but um, it was out of necessity. You have to if you're going to be a farmer.
Sure.
I
And
told Joe
if anybody in the audience is not a farmer and just trying to keep seahorses, that's my whole point. What they're saying is brilliant. I mean, heck, I love the videos where people show you how to do DIY stuff, do it yourself stuff. And I mean, it's so smart. I mean, it really is. But if you're just not handy, I mean, literally, guys, my reactor that I copied Dan's instructions and design is now too tall and won't work. It's like, ew, whoa. But
Just didn't measure it to see if it was going to fit in.
Well,
Measure
nobody told me I had to measure. What? No, I'm kidding. If you can do these things,
29 gallons that I've had for years that I used to use, every one of them has been turned into a sump with baffles and the whole 9 yards.
Mhm.
Well, they didn't cost me anything other than the sealant, because I already had all the other stuff there. So all my sumps are sumps I've built myself versus spending several $100s to buy an acrylic sump. And I mean, you can save a lot of money if you do the DIY stuff.
Something
Sure.
I'd
I
like
think
to say about all
a
this
different
do it
container.
yourself stuff.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You
over
guys
the-
were talking. Wait. You were talking over each other. So Ray first. Go ahead.
Over all the years that I've been building things, you only hear about the things that I succeed at. I have failed over the years many times, but I don't normally go around bragging about it.
Right. Dan
Well,
talks all the time about that's the problem with social media because you only see like somebody could buy a really bright yellow seahorse and show pictures and it's yellow or it's brown in 3 days, but they don't show pictures anymore. And Cheryl's a different story, but yeah, it's kind of scary that people. I do try to share my mistakes. I really do. Anyways, go ahead, Holly.
I decided to build something.
I think you just need a smaller container for your K1.
No,
Yeah.
you're right. You're absolutely
All
right.
you
But
have to do is use something else other than what you originally planned on.
no, listen.
My
That
favorite-
is. Wait, hang on, Cheryl. Hang on 1 second. 1 second. But no, Holly, you're absolutely right. But the problem is that I worked on and did a whole video putting together this stupid
Oh,
thing,
no.
and now I gotta redo it. But I'm gonna show you guys in the video that I screwed up. I didn't measure. Be smart. Measure first, and I'll show you how we resolve it. And Cheryl, I know you want to say something, but Chris, I just wanted to say, Chris in the comments said that life's been hectic. The last room renovations got mega delayed, but work is underway now in huge progress. Can't wait to see it. You've missed all sorts of big news, Chris. You need to go check out the new Deborah Corker Sea Dragon video. All right, now go ahead, Cheryl. Sorry. And we want you to come to Wine Wednesday, Chris.
Okay, my favorite build. I decided to get some keto in my stump.
Mm.
Okay,
Somewhat.
cool idea.
Kato.
Yeah. The only thing I didn't think of is it's going to move in the stump. It's going to get into the baffles. It's going to plug up the baffles
Yep.
and flood the floor.
Yep.
That's
And
one of
or
the
end up
better
in
ideas.
and or end up in your main display, which is even worse. Right. Dan, Dan, do you have any mistakes you want to share before we go, or are you just perfect?
no, I'm not perfect. I've made many mistakes, and I've gotten better at planning and doing less of them. But I mean, the whole thing starting out with seahorses was all mistakes. I mean, we had to learn as we went to figure things out, and that was the fun part. It was the challenges of trying to figure it out. Now, there's some things that it's like some things can be a challenge and can be fun, and some things can just be a pain in the what. I
Oh,
spent
yeah.
3 hours today trying to get the filter off my daughter's car to change the oil
Ugh.
because the idiot at the place put the damn thing on so tight that I'm out there with an impact wrench trying to take a filter off of the car that should be hand tight.
Yeah.
There's things like that you always run into little problems, but if you look at some of the people, I got a kid at work that I work with, and you can throw almost anything at him and tell him it doesn't work or it won't do this, and he'll figure out a way to make it work. And some people are just a little bit more ingenious at doing that type of stuff and find that challenging and more fun. And there's other people, I knew some people that I used to work with that if something needed to be done, they called somebody. That was it. They didn't do anything,
Well, while that sounds like a really terrible put down, I'm pointing at myself, and I just wanted
No,
to.
I don't mean it as a put down. It's
No,
just my brother, for example. I mean, if he doesn't use it in 3 months, he tosses it. If something needs to be done, he calls somebody to come do it. Plain and
Right.
simple.
Well, the only way I was gonna go with that is I was gonna say a shout out real quick to Seahorse Sources group and Dan Underwood, because in a recent situation where I couldn't figure out what was wrong with the tank, he came up with vibrations, and things that I would never even think about. So what you're saying is absolutely right. I won't take I don't throw things away after 3 months, but I do call somebody like you who's just better at figuring out the problem. So definitely go join Seahorse Sources group, and I'll let you talk. Sorry.
It's, that's a great point in that you don't always have to come up with a solution yourself because there is information out there if you're willing to dig for it. It used to be easier on the forums, but not quite as easy on Facebook and whatnot. But now there's so bloody many YouTube videos. I mean,
I know.
if I had to have an appendectomy, I'd ask the doctor, you had to do it or you going to watch a YouTube video first?
Right, but on the same hand, any seahorse keepers that are having a problem that you can't figure out, go to Seahorse Sources group and come to Wine Wednesday, because we've probably experienced the problem, so we can help. But no, I get your point totally.
The thing is, if somebody makes a mistake, we've all made mistakes. We aren't perfect, and we learn from our mistakes and we modify what we're doing. So you should see some of my mistakes. I tried to cut off 3 fingers one day with a drill and a piece of plexiglass.
Oh, jeez.
And
Well,
I
what I wish.
massive punctures.
Sorry, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But what I wish, like what Ray was denying or saying he didn't do, I wish we shared more of our mistakes, because, when you're commercial, you can't, of course, because you're selling a product. But that, I really do try on this channel to share my mistakes, because that's what will help people in the future, So watch for the
Well,
vibrations
it's like,
video.
yeah, it's like all my sumps. Everybody said you cannot use basic aquarium caulk on plexiglass because it won't stick. But if you put it in there with a little bit of a ledge on either side, I've got some that I've had running for over 10 years and have never failed.
Right.
So it's kind of sometimes it's a matter of just kind of monkeying with it yourself to see what you can do.
Okay,
And
everybody pause.
To me, that's part of the fun.
You're right, Cheryl. I'm not handy though, bottom line. But Chris has joined us. And Chris, what I meant when I said that is that we would do a special episode dedicated to you where you could share. But now that you're here, what's up? Chris is like, you know what? I didn't even mean to jump in. No. Are you muted, sir?
He didn't.
Hang on, he's got to unmute.
He's muted.
You're muted, Chris.
How's it going, guys?
Hey, Chris. How's it going with you?
Pretty good. No? Keeping busy? Getting out of mischief?
We can barely hear you.
Time on Facebook.
How's everyone else going? What's news? What have I missed? What's going on in the world?
Well, I put out the Deborah Corker video, the sea dragons from Ocean Reef Aquaculture. So definitely check that one. And we're just,
I've already checked that one out. It was a good watch.
Oh, thanks. And yeah, she's awesome. I think you messaged us earlier that Ocean Reef Aquaculture's website's online now, right? Up and good? Oh, he's good now.
We just lost him again. There he is.
No, that's okay.
So
I'm
can
just
you?
figuring out how to use Zoom again.
Oh no, it's all right. When we do have you on for a special video about you, we'll practice ahead of time. No worries. Plus, I'm doing some new software, so it'll be better. But anything you want to update us on, we're still sitting here chatting about seahorses.
Yeah. So I don't know. There's lots and lots that's been going on. Lots of renovations at work and lots of changes at work. So that's been fun and interesting and challenging, but fun. Yeah. There's big things on the horizon, hopefully, which should be.
You notice he alluded to it big
Right.
things on the horizon.
You gotta love when
smile.
you gotta love when somebody comes and says watch for the big things, but I'm not gonna tell you about them. No, totally
I
totally
do.
totally
I do like
understand,
it too.
Chris. Sorry,
I
we're
like
all
I know
talking.
that look.
All right, let's let Chris talk. We're all talking over him, including me. Sorry, but so I know that you were working on a big exhibit, and so now it's back in progress.
Yeah, it got delayed for a little bit. We had some issues with some builders or contractors, and that's been resolved. We've got someone new, and work is underway right now as we speak. So there's big things happening there. I moved house, which was fun. So in a new setting now. Moving house isn't fun, but it means that I can set up my new tank and stuff. So it'll keep me busy as well.
How many thousand gallons?
It's his house.
It's only a fairly small one, so I think it's only, I don't know, like 150 or 200 litres. So much smaller than I work with at work. But I'm trying not to bring my work home with me too much. So just a little something to play with.
What are you planning to keep in it?
At this stage, I'm hoping to keep some beautiful shrimp.
Nice. Any particular species?
Blood shrimp.
Oh wow. Whoop, sorry. Oh wow. Very nice.
Beautiful.
I can't wait to
Yeah.
see it. I can't wait for you to share. And so the new place is better. Then you're happy now.
100%. Yeah, it's so much better. It's much newer, tidier, neater, more modern. It's got solar panels on the roof, so my electricity costs will be down. And I've got a gardener thrown in for free, so I don't have to waste any time on lawns or garden maintenance, which means I can just waste all my time at work or on fishy projects. So keeps me happy.
Fishy projects. Fishy projects. I love it. And obviously we're excited to see the new Seahorse exhibit. And I won't give away any clues because I know it's going to be awesome and I can't wait for you to share it. Let me know when you do so that I can reshare for sure. And so at work there, because Ray is saying that they're still on lockdown here, we're like basically open. How are things where you're at? Is that like is the restaurant back open or go ahead?
Yeah, it is. Australia's doing pretty well considering in the grand scheme of things. We occasionally have lockdowns in different states, but Tasmania, where I am, has been open since we came out of the initial lockdown. I think it was like June last year. So
Oh, good.
yeah, we've been open as such for almost a year now, and yeah, no, it's all going pretty well. It's a little bit. What's that? Sorry.
You got better politicians than we have in the U.S. and Canada.
Definitely.
True.
And, you know, Australia is like an island country, you know, so we don't have the same sort of border issues that many other countries have. And Tasmania is one better. It's an island state underneath the main country. So we're even more isolated. And I guess that's really helped us with COVID. So there hasn't been any cases down here in Tasmania for a very long time. Touch wood. Hopefully it stays that way. But yeah, no, we're just trying to rebuild bigger and better for when things do get back to normal, whatever normal looks like.
You don't get to use bigger and better. That's the slogan here. You don't get to use. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Yeah. So and yeah, so you mentioned before that I'm working on an exhibit. It's not just one exhibit. It's going to be 3 Seahorse displays in one.
And to share anything about them, like if I asked you, are they going? What's the point of each of the 3? Are you able to share that yet, or?
Yeah, I think so. So they're going to be Seahorse habitat displays. So the idea is they're going to be 3 different examples of different biotopes or different habitat locations where you might find seahorses in the wild.
I love that so much. Oh my gosh, I can't wait. like I want to come to Australia just to see them when they're finished. That's so
Yeah,
cool. Such a good
a
idea.
little bit of time to get it done, but
species- What species are you going to be working with for the different habitats?
still undecided at this stage. We'll wait till we get them set up and then go, but we've got quite a variety to choose from, so I'll figure that out when we get a little bit closer to it and get the actual tank set up and stuff.
Speaking of variety, what species? Like I know last time we spoke, you were really doing well with whitey eye, and what species are you currently working with, if you can share? Sublinguatus. Sorry. Uh-oh, you muted.
Needs two hands.
No, I'm just counting.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were muted. So he's working on like all these species. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
I won't say what species I'm working on, but I've got 9 different species at the moment.
Nice. Well, check out it. Should I say Seahorse Australia or Seahorse World? I always get that confused. Your Seahorse.
Seahorse World is like the tourism branch.
Right.
So like we actually come to go through and visit our facility and go on a tour and stuff. Seahorse Australia is the I guess almost like the aquaculture branch, or the branch that actually sells seahorses. So, I mean, both work. We use them pretty interchangeably, and I won't judge if you guys get them confused or mixed up, because it is confusing.
Okay, well, we're going to stop asking you questions that you're probably not supposed to answer. Sorry. But we want you to come on when you can answer them, because it's such cool things you're doing. But we were discussing earlier about breeding color into seahorses, and it was a true debate because there's differences of opinion and nobody really has the right answer. So I know you were working on that. Can you share anything about that? Did it work? Did it not?
It can be done, definitely.
You think?
I don't think I know.
Really? And if I suppose you can't tell us how. No, I know you can't. I know you can't. Go ahead.
I'll just say that I've been working on selective breeding programs for seahorses for a little while now, and I'm a few years in, and I'm getting very promising signs.
I say
when you get a whole bunch of different batches of fry that are all the same species, but you can visually distinguish which ones are your selective breeding programs only a few weeks of age in, you go, okay, that's the selective breeding program. They're not. And when even someone who doesn't know anything about seahorses can walk past and go, why are these ones different? That's when you know that you're onto something. And yeah.
Well, I say cheers to that, and I want to hear when you finally release a paper or whatever, or share the results, because they're, nobody does know. People have tried and failed. If you succeed, it's going to be awesome. And you're not just trying to selectively breed for color, right? It's for multiple things.
Yeah, I've got multiple projects on the go, like multiple different programs, breeding programs, because I mean it's all just time, and when you're breeding and raising seahorses on a large scale and many different types and species already, it's one of those things. It's like what's another project, or what's another lot of seahorses. So it's set up another tank and isolate them and feed them and raise them up, select the best seahorses, breed them on for the next generation, and rinse and repeat.
Gotcha. And so, aside from selective breeding, which is obviously a thing. I mean, Dan created minis, pintos. There's all these, come on. Selective breeding is a thing, but with color, we're waiting for someone like you to really show us that it can be done, and that people can keep that color once they go into aquariums. So can't wait for that. But oh my gosh, I completely forgot my question. I'm sorry.
Technically,
One
from
Wednesday.
a genetic perspective, just about anything you could conceivably selectively breed for. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be successful, and there's going to be the throwbacks, because there's going to be basically, anytime you have a selective breeding, there's still going to be the genetic material potentially on the genome that never came into play. And given the right set of circumstances, you can get throwbacks also.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
You guys are getting too
Definitely.
sciencey for me. But go ahead. Go ahead. I
Well,
can't
with
wait.
selective breeding programs, rather than seahorses, because there's so many added curveballs with seahorses. But if you look at things like guppies or shrimp or other things like that, if you look at the ornamental aquarium trade and look at the different selective breeding programs, you know, discus and all different types of
Wow.
other fish in the aquarium trade, and you look at how selective breeding has been done over many years with those, there's all the potential in the world for it. It's just seahorses having the ability to change colour throws a bit of a spanner in the works sometimes.
I was getting ready to say their ability to change color. You talk about the chromatophores that you almost have to selectively breed to eliminate the changing of colors in order for that to work. And
Yeah.
you
Look
know,
at him
that's where
nod.
it becomes, yeah.
That's
I
probably
mean,
the key right
Right.
there.
guys, listen, Chris, it's great to see you again. I got to step out. I'm up against the clock. I got to go do my treatment.
Hey, Dan, thank
Yep.
you so much for coming. And yeah, we're not going to go much longer, but thank you so much for coming.
Hey, Dan, take care of yourself.
Yep. Y'all have a great night.
Okay.
And I got to
Thanks.
sign off too. I have to get up for 7 o'clock grocery pickup.
Y'all
Okay.
leave me. No, I'm kidding. I said I was going to make this less long, but Chris jumped in, so I got a couple more questions for him. But Ray, thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Okay. Good night, all.
Hey,
Good to
take
see you
care of
again,
yourself,
Chris.
Ray.
So, Chris, I'm curious. With the big question for me is not whether you can do it, because I know you can. I know selective breeding is possible, and I have always had this feeling that, as Dan said, the chromatophores that allow a seahorse to change color with different species, they have different chromatophores. Like certain species won't turn a certain color because they can't. So yeah, they can all try to camouflage, but I totally see where with certain species selective breeding would work. But my question is, are you going to do, or no? This is a total hypothetical. Do you think that once these seahorses are selective bred, that consumers should expect the seahorses to stay that color?
Well, that's the aim. So
Okay.
that's actually why I began working on selective breeding programs for colour, because we often get requests for seahorses of a particular colour, and that's not a guarantee that you can make with seahorses, as you know. And so I was genuinely curious, as someone who comes from a hobbyist and a breeder background, someone who you know, likes breeding things and is genuinely curious and interested in the genetics aspect of it. You know, I was very curious if it could be done, and I initially set up the project just to try and answer that question. But with the results that I've got over the last nearly 4 years, I'm convinced 100% that it can be done.
I think that's
It takes a lot
amazing
of
that
time and effort, but
Well,
yeah.
Kelly, think in terms of every species on this planet is constantly going through basically genetic changes in terms of evolution. So if you do not have the ability to modify your genome to adapt, then you are basically going to perish. So that it has to be a fluid. Genetics is always going to be fluid.
right, and I get that, and genetics is beyond me. I admit that. I get it and I admit it. But I just, when you guys say things like, we're gonna mess with the DNA or whatever, the genetics, to make sure they can't change color, that's kind of a scary thing. And I know that's not what you said, Chris. You said selective breeding difference. But once you start diving into the science stuff, I just don't know enough to make a comment, but it's kind of, I don't know. So,
Now, the flip side of it is look at our dog breeds. Look at what we've done to clowns. I mean, the wolf was the original dog, and now
right,
we have
but
chihuahuas.
right, but I don't think, and I'm not speaking for you, and I'm not asking you, Chris, but I don't think that's what you're doing. You're just selective breeding. So we'll leave it there. And I will just ask you then, what other things are you working on, or what is Seahorse Australia working on? Because you guys have so many cool projects going on. Um,
Mm.
since COVID has started going away, not going away, I shouldn't say that, but since things have calmed down, what are the latest things you're working on besides seahorses?
Um, well, we're doing just a lot of renovations and that on the actual side of Seahorse world, and we're going through and we're trying to, I guess, streamline and improve the guests' experience as they come on through our facility, and we're trying to improve signage. We're trying to improve the displays. We're trying to just really, make the experience better in almost every way we can.
Have you guys thought about anything virtual, or is that a no-no? Meaning,
It's a
like,
pretty
I
big
could see a person walking you through Seahorse World and they'd have to pay for it, but the same thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, but the problem with that, like, it would open up the market to, you guys over in the US and everyone to be able to come through our facility and ask questions and whatnot. But there's a series of problems with that idea. And first and foremost, our facility is actually a giant Faraday cage because of all the insulation that makes up the wall and the roof and everything to keep our facility a temperature controlled facility. As soon as I walk into our aquarium or our farm every single morning, I instantly lose reception. It's like walking into a tunnel
Wow.
or driving into a tunnel. You lose all of your phone reception. You can't get Wi-Fi or anything in there, and so yeah, walking someone through and streaming it just wouldn't work unless we implemented some sort of rerouted our Wi-Fi in there and sort of boosted the signal and put it inside. But one of the other reasons why we don't is because I guess it could possibly cheapen our experience, and it might make it so that it's not very much. These days you can screenshot things, but you can also record video on a lot of devices. So I could walk through and do a full walkthrough and take you through just the experience people pay for, and you might pay for it, but then you might
Share it.
take a recording of it and then either share it or redistribute it and charge other people for it and stuff. And so yeah.
No,
there's
that
a
make
range
that.
of
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that makes total sense. And don't you guys do? Forgive me if I'm wrong, but don't you guys do some things like with feeding or touching and stuff too?
Yeah. So all of the seahorses usually get fed on the tours when you come through.
Yeah.
So we feed the fry, we feed the bigger seahorses, we feed the breeders and whatnot, and
See,
then
go ahead. I'm sorry. No, I interrupted you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And then later on in the experience, we do actually have a touch pool or a touch tank to give people an opportunity to get hands-on with seahorses in a controlled setting under supervision of a experienced guide. So
yeah, you can't put that online. Those things are important.
exactly,
Right.
exactly. And seahorses are such a cryptic animal in the wild and whatnot that there's not many, if any, chance that most people of your average person will actually get to be able to experience touching a seahorse or holding one in their hands.
Absolutely, and what your company does is, or what Seahorse World is allowing and giving the experience to is so cool and important. And I kind of worry. So I asked the question, like just literally trying to think of a way to help you guys grow. But your answer was right on, and it kind of worries me for so many businesses that do offer this specialized experience that now everything's going virtual and it's turning into this. Well, I'm getting too deep into my own thoughts, but it's turning into this different world where we don't care about that stuff anymore, and it's really important and cool. So I'm glad you guys are sticking to you got to come here. Of course, now we got to get me there because I want to come. But yeah. Anyways, are you guys doing any and I feel bad because if I would have talked to you before you jumped in, or if you come for an episode about you, I will ask you what questions I'm allowed to ask. But just out of curiosity, are you guys working on any new projects where you'll be putting any kind of fish back into the wild?
We're still working on the handfish project, so we're working on the
Nice.
spotted and red handfish. There's been a few developments there. They've developed an ultrasound technique. So the biggest bottleneck that we've had with our handfish breeding program is that you can't sex a handfish. You can't tell the boys from the girls. The only way that we can tell a girl is when it's in her breeding season and she's literally like full of eggs. Like if she's really, really big and round, and you can tell, visually looking at her that she's ready to pop. But aside from that, you can't tell the girls from the boys. And so the problem that this poses is that you then have a very, very hard time pairing them off to get them breeding. And there's been a development where someone has figured out a technique. So what they do is they put the handfish in a fish bag with some water. They put them in, and being a handfish, they spend their whole life on the seafloor. So they sink down to the bottom of the bag, and then what they do is they take an ultrasound machine with a very small probe. They put the ultrasound gel or whatever on the underside of the bag, and they stick the probe up to the underside of the bag and get it just underneath the fish. And then they ultrasound to look inside of the fish, and they have a very, very fine look and distinguish the male and female organs inside of the fish. And,
so you can tell from the inside. That's so cool. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, up until now, when we do like an autopsy on a handfish after they've passed away, we can find out in retrospect whether they were a boy or a girl. But this is giving us a way to look inside the handfish whilst they're still alive and whilst there's still an opportunity to get them breeding. So we haven't got someone down to Seahorse World to sex all of our handfish yet, but it should hopefully be on the horizon.
That's so
and once
incredible.
we do
That is
we'll hopefully relieve our biggest bottleneck in breeding, and hopefully, if things go well, we might have handfish coming out of our ears, which will be good.
Oh,
Are
yay.
males and females aggressive with each other, or basically are the male aggression, or is there?
There is a little bit of aggression sometimes, but it's usually like the females are generally bigger than the males, and so the males kind of need to watch themselves a little bit, especially when the females pregnant and angry.
I was just curious because I'm thinking about trying to pair them up, and the negatives associated with once you have them sexed. What are the potential problems in terms of trying to pair them up?
They're generally pretty fine. We've figured out roughly how to keep them well and how to give them enough space to reduce aggression and whatnot. But the biggest bottleneck has always been our inability to efficiently pair them. And so now that we could theoretically sex all of our handfish and figure out who's who and pair them up accordingly, it gives us a chance to get them into established pairs. And then, they only breed a specific time of year every summer or in the lead up to summer. So to get them to pair up efficiently means that we'll maximize our opportunities for them to breed.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's just like seahorses. When you figure out who your breeders are, you put them in a tank by themselves or whatever. I'm not trying to talk process here, but yeah, you can figure it out. Male aggression wouldn't matter once you have the pair that you want to breed and you figure out who's who and what's what. So
I'm assuming that after the one breeding season that they do not pair bond or anything like that. They kind of go their separate ways.
Not actually sure on that one. So they're not a very well scientifically studied species, and so the legwork probably hasn't been done to determine whether they mate for life or whether they pair up and stay together for very long. But the other thing, I think there could be a degree of that, but it would be due to isolation and the fact that the handfish don't move very far. There've been habitat surveys where they've surveyed the handfish and they've figured out techniques to take photos and identify each individual handfish, almost like identifying a zebra bite stripes
Wow.
by the patterns and markings on the handfish. And so they've determined that handfish generally don't move around all that much. So they generally stay in the same area for extended periods of time, most of their lives, in fact.
Yeah.
Why
which
do you
means
think
they
they're
may
not?
actually-
Go ahead, Cheryl.
They actually stay together, or breed year after year, conceivably to the same mate.
Only
Why do I
because they
think
don't
they
have
do?
another option. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if they're in the same area and they've got the same breeding partner there year after year, then it would make sense.
I'm literally
Um,
seeing a meme where it's like, go ahead and try to run away from me, honey. Sorry. But why do you think they haven't studied more about all of this when we're talking about an endangered species?
I mean, they've done a lot of research in that now, but it's all very recent, and so there's still a lot more work to be done. But we're trying to answer all the questions now and trying to give them, pardon the pun, a helping hand, and try and bring the species back from the brink of extinction.
Well, I just thank you for the work that you're doing and that Seahorse
Yeah.
Australia is doing. That's amazing. Go ahead, Cheryl.
We're going to be seeing a lot of species on the brink of extinction over the next few years.
Yeah, it's probably only going to get worse too going forward.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask Chris to please come back and share with us, like, as this special guest. But is there anything else I haven't asked you that you do want to share? Because I'm going on 2 and almost a half hours. So I gotta pee. So, anyways, anything else you wanted to share or anybody wants to share before I do close it for tonight? But we love when Chris comes and we're going to get him back as a special guest. I promise I'll drag him. But, Chris,
I would
anything
like to
else?
Say,
Go ahead.
thank you, Chris, for coming. You're very
Yes.
informative, and I love being able to ask you questions.
We need a whole
Always happy to
show
help.
with you, Chris.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll come on one week.
We'll
Maybe
plan
when
it.
life widens down a little bit.
I mean, I could go on probably for the next 25 hours and not even breathe, and I keep asking you questions.
Anybody who comes to Wine Wednesday and is a Seahorse person loves this stuff. So absolutely. And but Chris, is there anything else you wanted to share or?
No, I think I'm pretty good actually.
Oh.
I might remember something later, but yeah, no. I think
Well,
I'm pretty good.
when you remember it, message me. We'll come up with a list of questions. I'll ask everybody else for questions, and we'll have you on as a guest, to where you can really share. And I know what not to ask also. But Miss Holly, did you have anything else you wanted to share before I close?
Oh, not really. I wanted to thank Cheryl's been helping me. Sandy got another tail bubble
Oh no.
this week,
Oh.
and he has not gotten IGBD like he did last time. I've been treating it with Alloderm and just twice a day, and then I've been sharing the video so Cheryl can take a look at it and see how it's doing. So thank you, Cheryl, for helping me out with that.
You're welcome. And the thing is, the swelling has gone way down. The color is returning to normal. So I'm suspecting that it's not bacterial. At the time, he was also basically, there's another male in there, and he was getting a little overzealous, and I'm
Ah.
suspecting he may have actually had a traumatic injury that induced the swelling on the tail.
So wait. First of all, I want to say, Holly, thank you for sharing when something does go wrong. As we were talking about earlier, that's the only way other people can ever learn. If everybody only shares the good times and the wows, nobody can ever learn. So thank you very much for sharing your experience. and
This
letting
is all-
people learn as you go.
This is all over seahorse.org. It's not, we're not hiding this. We're trying
No.
to, is this a viable alternative to 10, sometimes with tail bubbles, 21 days in a hospital tank with Furan 2 and triple sulfa? And I mean, it's very traumatic when you start separating them and all this other stuff. So it's one of those things, if this does prove to be beneficial,
Yeah.
it could really help some other seahorses.
Sure, and I didn't mean to imply that anybody was hiding it. And
Yeah.
seahorse.org is awesome. And I personally had a seahorse that had issues with tail bubble. Sorry, not tail bubble. That's not the, what's the proper term? Gas bubble disease in the tail, whatever. But what you're saying is interesting to me because I hope somebody does some more research or some more, figuring out about this, because what you're saying really does make sense, because with my seahorse that did get tail bubble disease, where all the rest of the seahorses in the tank did not,
Right.
he continued to have problems. I would cure him, he'd get better, and then all of a sudden he'd have it again. And so that does make me question the bacterial theory.
Yeah,
It's
did
like,
bacteria get in it? Yeah, because that's how he ended up in the hospital tank last time. It started with his tail, just looked just exactly like it does now. And then within like days, his whole body became like a balloon.
Right,
know,
and
it
that's
was
obvious
like-
internal GBD.
yeah.
So I'm
Except
wondering,
this
did it
time you
start
started treating the
Wait, whoa,
tail.
whoa, whoa, whoa! Everybody's talking. Holly, you're wondering what?
So I was thinking, did it start with a bacterial infection in his tail? Maybe because he did get hurt, and like Cheryl was saying, and bacteria got in, and then it spread through his whole body.
Yeah.
Whereas this time, maybe I caught it in time on his tail, and am treating him. Will that prevent it from going to the rest of his body?
Which is also suggestive, since we use Diamox to treat internal gas bubble disease, the causative agent may very well be a pathogen, which would make a lot more sense.
That's interesting.
But his tail has improved dramatically.
Good.
He has not stopped eating. He's not moping around, and he's still, again.
Well, he is now, Cheryl, but I think it's because of his treatments.
But wait,
mad
real
at
quick,
you.
real quick. So Holly, what you're using is what?
Alloderm.
Gotcha.
The
So like
Allison,
Allison. Yep.
Dan says to you. So I have a tube of Alloderm. It's the gel version.
So you're
So
treating him externally.
Yeah. So I take him out of the tank and dry off his tail and put on the Alloderm and try to let it dry for 3 minutes before I put him back in while I'm videoing it. So Cheryl can.
Wow.
She's holding his head under the water the whole time.
Of course.
Yeah.
No, but that's really fascinating. I'm curious to see how well it works and if it lasts. Because once like I said, once my seahorse got problems with GBD, I could cure him. But then again, I do have to say this. Anybody watching, don't give up hope, because I did have one seahorse that did. I've had two seahorses with GBD. One is the one I've described that just kept having problems. The other one is one that I literally, sadly, gave up on. Put him in a quarantine tank without much of anything. Didn't treat, just fresh water. Didn't really. I mean, I had given up, sadly. I still have the seahorse, and he's never had another problem. So I don't have the answers. Chris, I'm curious. Have you dealt with GBD and seahorses?
Not really. I've had a lot of other issues.
Right.
Yeah, haven't had that one specifically. Touch wood. Yeah, we've had a few other issues that have cropped up.
Well, maybe you can share them on the show that we special guest you. But yeah, I just didn't want to give anybody false hope or saying if you see a seahorse with GBD, give up. Definitely don't do that. Obviously, what Holly's doing is working.
No.
And we'll
If you
keep
can
following.
see, so here's his tail. If you can see on my phone,
Yeah, I can see.
this is this afternoon.
Okay, that bubble used to be twice that size and white.
That doesn't even look like a bubble. That does look bacterial to me.
Well, it
So it's
started
interesting.
as a bubble. Now I think because it's healing, it's now a gray color. It's not white anymore, and there's no bubble really. It's
Well,
a
that'd be
little swollen.
crazy if you guys proved somehow, at least in this case, there are different cases, guys. With GBD, we just don't know enough. But it'd be really cool if you proved somehow that you could cure it from the outside. Holy crap. Go ahead, Holly.
Well, I have never had,
Oh, go ahead, Joe.
in over 15 years of keeping seahorses, I've never had one with internal gas bubble disease. I've only had one seahorse, and that was a hippocampus engines dashing bubble, and it cleared up. But it's one of those things where it depends on the seahorse.
True, and we for so long we've
I've
blamed.
done so much work.
Right, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but true, and we've spent so much time figuring out, thinking that it was a bacterial thing. All I was saying is it'd be interesting to see. I can't wait to see how this turns out. For sure.
To be honest, can fish get viruses?
Right, right.
And
But
Chris
what's
is nodding
interesting
yes.
is nobody else in the tank has had any problems, only him.
Yep.
It's,
No, Holly, in my case, it was the same thing. I had one male that got it, and it just, he kept getting it, but nobody else had problems. And we always say, oh, if one in the tank has something, you got to quarantine everybody or treat everybody. But I had the same experience. So that's really, we need more research for sure. Keep researching.
The thing is, if we don't try different things, we will never be able to move forward.
Absolutely. And on that note, as much as I want to learn more, you guys need to go check out Siren Song Seahorses and check out Holly's page and Seahorse Source group. And yeah, Kelly is going to call it because the wine is gone. Boo hoo.
Yes. Yes.
But, and Crit,
I have to go feed my new seahorses.
yeah, Cheryl, look at you slacking. All right. You guys all say bye, and of course, again, I will drag Chris here for a full guest episode soon, but everybody say goodbye for tonight.
Good night, everybody.
That was Holly's bye. Chris, say bye.
Catch you guys. Good to see
All
you
right.
all.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. Cheers. Thank you, everybody who